So we have to. Yes, he was saying it wrong.
Everybody, we're calling the meeting to order, and we're so thrilled to have everybody here. Thank you, Clay, for coming down the mountain.
Yes, ma'am.
So we appreciate it very much. I need an approval of the meeting minutes Wednesday, June 18th to 2025.
Make a motion to approve the meetings from June.
Second.
Scott, second.
Oh, Scott Wood.
We got,
Scott. Sorry, I forgot to say that.
that's all right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. The motion carries. And you'll give a summary of our revenue and expenditures, and after we do that, we can approval or ask questions. So, I think they're in that revenue expenditure.
So, we included, FY 2025 revenue figures for you guys to look at, just because we didn't have the July meeting to kind of go over the final numbers, so I wanted you to be able to see final revenue expenditures there. And then also behind that is the FY 2026, which is all of July 25 and then half of August 25, so that should just be 26. Those end up almost at 430 in revenue on the year, which is about where I told you guys we would end up. There, the last deposit for June. And then if you go to the next page, that's going to be your fiscal year 26 licensing revenue so far. And you'll see so far we're at 298,778. That's through last week's deposit. And we actually have about almost $3 grand in there from just this week of last deposit this week. So we're actually at around 301 and some change. Okay. And that's not even, we're not even to the end of August yet. So we're actually tracking well ahead of last year. And I attribute that to, again, the manufacturer distributors now being forced to upload their list of reps, and those people then being forced to apply. Alexis can tell you, we've gotten a lot of new distributor and manufacturer reps this year.
So compared to last year, that's probably a big difference.
It is. It's going to be. I'll run some figures once we're done with renewal, just to try to figure out. But it's going to be probably 10 or 20,000
Wow, that's
difference, and that's just because, again, we're missing a lot of reps that should have had licenses. So that has helped tremendously. Again, I think it'll be somewhere in that ballpark, $20,000 in revenue that we're missing out on previously because of the way we did it previously. So this next report here just kind of gives you the end of 2025 in terms of, remember, the 403-200, 1,000 is penalties, 403-302, 7,000 geocode is our license and permits. That's just how our revenue is coded. So that just gives you the end of 2025 there. And then the start of 2026 here, you've got your penalties. So far, we've only had 1,650 in late fees and penalties on this fiscal year. And then you've got your licensing revenue, which doesn't have, this doesn't have all of it on there. That's just up to you. Then we also have the monthly service bureau reports, which is the detailed in-depth reports for you guys. We've got 2025, FY 2025, and 2026. The first one is FY 2025, so this is going to show you the entire year, months 1 through 12 of the fiscal year, and all of the revenue and all the figures are in there. And it's also going to give you a breakdown of all of our expenditures as well, kind of at the bottom of that. You can see if you look at the appropriation there, kind of on the second page, you know, we still came out well ahead at the end of the year, having plenty of appropriation left over for all of our categories. So we still had a little over 120,000 left over, so we didn't have any issues there. Didn't have to go back to the legislature and ask for additional funds. You will also see on the first page, there's a column at the kind of close to the bottom where it says interagency transfers going out. And if you go all the way to the right, you'll see that $250,000 figure there. So that's the grant. Okay, that's the grant funds going out and into that grant fund and going out with the warrants. So that's your grant funds that you guys dispersed out, which we'll go over later in the packet. But that's what that figure is. It's showing that going out of our department. So Yeah, other than that, that's the final year figures for 25 in depth. And then that next Service Bureau report you'll see says special periods 2026, that's FY 2026. So we just have July and August for that. And that's showing you where we're at currently in terms of our fund balance. That fund balance, investments, ending balance is down at the bottom, kind of in that, I guess, beige color. I don't know what else to call that. So that's kind of where we stand at this point in terms of our fund balance. And then also the appropriation breakdown is on the back of that for the fiscal year. So we're well within there. I also will point out, if you look at the salary section, so under this has all the new pay plan titles. So you guys are all aware the legislature passed a new pay plan in the legislative session and gave us all new technical titles here, staff wise. So you'll see I'm Labor and Licensing Division Director, technically, I'm still called Director, but and Margie and John are now Investigator 3, that's kind of their position. And Alexis, we have moved to the Fiscal Support Specialist position because it more matches what she does. We'll still call her the Licensing Supervisor, but technically she's the Fiscal Support Specialist in that position under the new pay plan. So that's what you see there. That's her new position. And then, below that, you'll just see a breakdown of the bills we've had so far. I will note, you'll see here in July, the DIS bill for our Microsoft Office program is $235, and for the phone program, $57.81. Well, there was a rate adjustment that took effect last month, so the Microsoft bill is going to go up to $260 a month for us, and that phone bill is going to go up to $60. So both of them went up a little bit, and that's going to be per month. That's all of what DIS bills us to run the phone system and run our computer systems and Microsoft programs, all of that stuff, the server. So that's what that is. You'll also see there our vehicle insurance and the cyber liability insurance. So that's what that is in WEX purchases. Property insurance will be on the next, you'll see that in the next packet. It's still the same amount, but legislature in the last session created what they call the Office of Property Risk, which is a state captive insurance program. So now property insurance, and this is for statewide agencies, schools, everybody, it's going to be through that SCIP program. So now, from now on, you'll see that's where we need our property insurance, which we don't have a lot of property, but that'll be the next one. It's the same amount, but it's not done through the AID, the state insurance department, AID. Yes, sir.
Hey, on your gasoline fuel purchase, 186.87. John, Martin, they travel, is that all gas y'all borrow? I got you, cost me that much coming to.
Yes.
Well, just for that month.
It's
Yeah.
just for a month.
But yeah, well, the good thing about the vehicles we have is they're Ford Fusions and they get really good gas mileage. I mean, Margie, John can tell you what do you usually get out of that thing? It's like
25, 26 on
Yeah.
average.
on
I
average.
saw that, but I thought, I said, my gosh.
Yeah. It's not too bad for those, but yeah,
Good.
it's.
Or,
But yeah, anytime you see that WEX, that's usually gas, and also we can put the service and maintenance for the vehicles on that card too. So if you see a bigger charge there, that's probably for the service. Will change, tire condition, that sort of thing. So, the next few reports are just going to be kind of your macro revenue summary reports for FY 25 and 26. Again, that's just the breakdown of revenue, and this is the one that breaks it down after DFNA deducts their 1.5% fee off of it. So this is the actual revenue after they've taken that out. So I'll show you guys that. That's for FY 25 and 26. And then your expenditure summary one, just macro breakdown. This is a little easier to digest and understand, but that's also for FY 25 and 26. And it's going to just give you a month-by-month breakdown of operating expenses, salaries, service matching, and any travel we do. So you have the final one for FY 25 and then the first 2 months of 26 there. And this also gives you a breakdown of our allotted appropriation too in yellow. So you know that is what we're working with. And then the last report here is just our submission summary, okay? And this is for basically this fiscal year, just showing you the numbers of license submissions we've had. A lot of these are renewals, but we've also had, as you can see, a number of new distributor rep and manufacturer rep license applications. That's giving you a submission count there, the breakdown of the number of figures. And I think the bottom one is just for that last month of June, for the last part of the fiscal year. So not a lot there. That's what that is. So in summary, that's all the reports. And we won't do, next time it'll just be fiscal year 2026. But again, just wanted to include the final figures for
Sure, we appreciate it.
2025 so you guys can see all that.
Y'all had a good year. Thank you
I
for
think so.
watching. Are there any questions, Jen, before we approve the report? I need a motion on the approval of the revenue and expenditures for FY 2025 and FY 2026.
I'll make a motion that we approve.
I'll second.
Thank you, Cheryl. It's been moved and seconded to approve the revenue expenditures of FY 2025 and FY 2026. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. On the licensing, renewal and voluntary license renewal reports.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, let's move into the license renewal, license activity reports here. So first section you see here is your monthly license activity reports. This is since the last meeting. The first one here, Bill White Ford. So Bill White, who owns Bill White Volkswagen in Fort Smith, they recently acquired Randall Tyler Ford, and that's why we have the voluntary surrender for Randall Tyler Ford later on in the packet. So Bill White Ford is now the Ford dealer in Boonville, took that over, Mr. White. So, and obviously they're selling Ford products there. So they have, that's their new license number that was issued last month. And then the next one is Timberland Outdoors, Mr. Suggs. Now he is selling Sunset Park RVs. He also has an auto store, which is just Timberland, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, right? So same location, but he has obviously a different sign and a different area of his lot and the building that he uses for the RV store. Marty went down there and did the sign inspection, and Mr. Suggs put up a separate sign for the RV store. So right now, this is the only product he's selling, right? Lexus just Sunset Park. I think that's all of that. So new RV dealer, and right there in conjunction with his auto store. That's his new license number. And we also have a new manufacturer, Sierra LSV LLC out of Georgia, that we licensed here in the last month. These are LSVs, I think, strictly, right? That's all they're pretty much manufacturing, the fancy golf cart LSVs. And McCoy Custom Parts, you'll see down there at the bottom is their prospective dealer, John. He's in Springdale. Right?
Yes.
We're working on getting him licensed. So there'll be a new dealer here pretty soon. And then we also have Solana EV, which is also low speed vehicles. They're going to be a distributor. And remind me, Alexis, who is the dealer that's interested? Do they have a dealer or are they still working on that? Okay. But they're a brand new distributor also of LSVs. Wouldn't be surprised to see them pop up in some of the new licenses we're going to be issuing soon in some of the retail stores. So that's the new license. Yes, they're here in Texas. That's the new license activity reports, which moves us into license renewal reports. And Alexis, do you want to kind of go over for the commissioners, this, since you put this renewal report together for manufacturing sugars, and kind of explain to them what all the color coding means?
So on our first page there's no color at all. That's all our section state manufacturers. They have all renewed for this renewal period. Once you get into the other ones, you're going to see licenses in red. Those are manufacturers or distributors who have not received an active license for for this year. Rather, it could be they haven't submitted at all, or it could be that, and for example, all those that looking for workers through here, they were rejected for one reason and, they just need to resubmit. We do have several that have not submitted anything at all. We're still working with them to get those handled. For example, like Evolution Electric Vehicles, we're still waiting on them. We're still waiting on OEI, Korea. Porsche was rejected. Sunrise actually was approved this week, I believe. After this report was made, already had EMS proposed. The one in that darker green color, so if you're on the distributor page, that's where it says like Mercedes-Benz USA, that specific color, those are all licenses that expired last renewal period that were either waiting on someone to get back to us or waiting on a surrender from them. So they're just still on the list, but they still technically have a license, it just hasn't been voided
But it's not.
or, yeah, it's not active. And then VinFast is in that bright green color. That's gonna be our only one in that color, and it's because they are surrendering that license, because they don't currently have any dealers. We have not received a surrender back, but they are on our voluntary license surrender.
And Alexis does a great job of following up with these people and staying on top of them to make sure they get this stuff submitted. I know, for instance, Candy America, Massimo, Korea, Subaru, of all people, has not. I don't think they submitted anything. They're way behind. So, I mean, a lot of these companies just haven't done it yet, and they're all going to have. They have not submitted anything as of this month. They all have a month of late fees, so they're going to have to pay the late fees. Oh yeah, we will. As soon as we get an application and get it approved, we send out the invoice. So, but we will continue working on that. But everybody else that's in white has already submitted and they've been removed. So, and that's going really well. And again, the reps are going really well. We've Alexis and I both, and Margie has helped look at them. We've looked at hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of reps at this point. So,
If you look at manufacturer branch, both of those have been submitted, they just have not been approved yet, so they're in our queue.
PACCAR manufacturer branches. Does anybody have any other questions about the manufacturer distributor middle list?
There's one that's white, Maserati that says.
Big Maserati.
Oh, if they must have just still showed up on the list, like Greg Harvey's on there too, they surrendered their license, but,
Maserati.
because of the time that they surrendered it and it was voided, it still shows up for a certain amount of time on the license.
Maserati doesn't have a license.
Yeah.
They surrendered.
But that has been surrendered.
You report, our working on.
Anybody else have any questions? And we do have a new distributor that we expect to apply here pretty soon. It's based out of Jonesboro for off-road motorcycles. Sherco USA just set up last month. It's going to be distributed all over the U.S., but they're French-made motorcycles. So they just opened up shop, have a warehouse. Sherco. SHERCO. They got a website. They're like racing motorcycles. The next list is voluntary license surrender agreements. We've got this whittled down to just what you see here. VinFast just requested a surrender, so we're still working on that one. But otherwise, all of these other folks are people that we've been trying to get in touch with for a long time. The DBI auto sales one, I know that guy. I'm not really sure what his holdup is. Have we talked to Mr. Pardue lately? Okay, I may have to reach out to him and see what's going on there. There's no reason for him not to do that. But the other ones I know we've really had a hard time with, and Karen and I enjoy, they have to discuss what steps we want to take, because I think, Alexis, you correct me if I'm wrong, these other four, especially at the bottom here, we haven't been able to really find or talk to anybody.
Western Peterbilt, that's one of those ones that's like a big thing, and they sold some stuff off to another company, and I've been in contact with them multiple times, and no one's really.
Yeah.
So it's kind of there.
So
How long do
is
we
that a
give
big franchise or just a manual?
Um,
The L license, what is that?
Lessor, so they, I think they go to. They go to another, just like random rental car business. And so that location was a Western Peterbilt, if you look it up, it's something else now. And they had like an old manager listed as the person who signed this stuff, like I would have, I don't even work there anymore. So there's like a,
So they,
yes,
they sold the Dobbs, which is a large
Yeah.
truck. So they're just engaged in leasing big trucks. That license, yeah.
that was now.
Where were they located?
I have to look
It
that
is
up.
in Northwest Arkansas. So.
In Dobbs, I think it's.
There is a dog there. That's where
So-
the issue.
So the issue is, short of us getting a surrender agreement from them, really the only way we have of terminating this license, technically, Aaron, correct me if I'm wrong, is to have a hearing. Because we can't get a consent agreement or a surrender agreement. We can't just unilaterally terminate somebody because we know that. So, I'm not wrong on that. No, I think it's correct.
So the Dobbs organization is licensed.
They haven't applied for the licensure, not for a lesser license.
Technically, they don't have to, that's what's interesting about this.
Yeah.
A dealer license, they can't do it, so I'm not really sure why Western Peterbilt only one of the lessor license for that location. Dobbs wants a dealer license. So,
That's correct. Yeah. And if you're a dealer, you get these, like you don't have.
Yeah,
to have a license. You don't have to have a separate license for those. Okay. Any other questions on that? That moves us on to investigations. So the first reports you see here are Margie and John's investigation summary. This is from middle of June until just last week. You'll see they're still maintaining the dealer visits, and we're going to be doing a lot more here pretty soon with the new influx. And I know John and Margie have been trying to schedule out their visits here recently because I'll give you an example. Lowe's, their attorney contacted us, was it last week or the week before, Alexis? And was asking for licensing information under the new act requirements of Act 233, which we'll go over again later. But they told us that they intend to license all 21 Lowe's locations in Arkansas. Statute section to sell ATVs and LSVs. So we anticipate getting franchise cycle applications for all 20 stores at some point in the next month, probably. So in that spirit, John and Margie are already kind of getting ahead of the game and doing site visits and inspections just to make sure. I don't anticipate any issues with Lowe's, obviously, but we still have to go through the process. So they're already kind of coordinating their schedules to figure that out. And of course, we also got contacted by a representative from compliance for Tractor Supply as well. They have close to 40 locations. I don't know if they're going to license all of them. They haven't really said, but I do anticipate we will get a number of Tractor Supply applications. But, they're obviously good. So
Our Tractor Supply Baseball has a couple of three, they say golf cart.
it's probably the Candy America, what is it called? Rack up.
Yeah, that's
Rack
right.
up.
Right. So is it a golf cart or is it?
Because it's 20 miles per hour or less, so it's considered a golf cart. I was over there last week.
So, that's coming down the pike. So John and Margie are gonna be really busy in the next few months, doing site inspection visits, so. Other than that, obviously, we're dealing with the same, issues, John and Margie, unlicensed dealers. When you see unlicensed dealers on their report, so that's generally the LSV dealers that John and Margie have been finding that need a license, that they've been doing business for. Although John did visit a store in Ash Flat here recently that, we found out was selling Yanmar UTVs. They need a license, so, and they have applied for a license. Bond sales, so we're in the process of getting them licensed. So, but generally, if you see unlicensed dealers, most of the time it's going to be an LSV dealer that didn't know they needed a license or hasn't been licensed before. That's what we're working on. And of course, our standard title issues that we're always working on. That's kind of the standard thing. And then advertising issues, complaints have really picked up in the last month or two. Really picked up. You'll see here in a minute when we go over the complaint report, especially the non-formal. If you look at the very end of the list, I think the last 10 or so are all advertising. So that's something John and Margie are working really hard on to try to stay on top of. But it can be a lot because obviously there's only 2 of them. And they can only address, so much at a time. So that may be something that I have to bring to all of you later in terms of a wider thing. I know in the past we've sent out like a notice or something just reminding people. I think Greg did help with that.
Greg helps.
In
That's
2018 or something. So we may have,
Thank you, Greg.
we may have to do something similar again. I don't know.
Well,
But
we used to have them in for training, didn't we, Greg?
yes.
So I think it's the points of it. But a lot of them are not doing that. It's picking up, I think, that kind of advertising a little bit more than, we used to read of them. Now it's coming kind of back. So,
And a lot of this is, I'll just say, online website related or social media related mostly. Things people are doing, so that's where most of it is. Right. And then that moves us to, does anybody, well, we might just go to the complaints and then y'all have questions for Margie. Full complaints for 2025, so we're up to 19 now on the year already. Only in August, so again, we're on track to probably have 30 plus formal complaints by the time it's all said and done. You'll notice on here, Mr. Brady and Mr. Haskin, they were open last time at ad hoc. Joy and I and Aaron met since the last meeting, and we have dismissed those 2 complaints for no violations that we can substantiate. So those have been closed out at the ad hoc level. We have a few others that are still open that John and Margie are working on. I know John's been working hard on the JP Nissan complaint from Ms. Cliff that we kind of went over last time at the last meeting that involves some embezzlement from some of the employees of the dealership and just a mess. And Mr. Pendergrass has been very, very good about, he's really trying to get that resolved on Ms. Cliff and make sure that can stay secure. So he's working hard on that from his standpoint. And then some of the other ones, standard title issues, not paying off clean, but working through. John and Margie are usually pretty good about getting those closed out as quick as we can. The one you see on here from Crystal Washington is Watney. That one, I've got to send a letter to her on. That was the one, Margie, that was actually not a complaint against the dealer. It was against the finance company, which we don't regulate. So do a custom letter on that one to explain that we can't really do anything to address that. The one with Mark Martin Ford, John is working hard on getting that one resolved for Mr. Solek. That's kind of an interesting one. I think it was it what was the vehicle he bought? It was a
19, 2001 Mercedes convertible that belonged to Mark Martin's legal counsel when they sold it, in the convertible top quit working. And Kyle Vance, who's the GM there, I've talked to him on the phone several times, and he's in the process of resolving it with Mr. Solar. They've agreed to certain things. And there was also a title issue with that, and that's in the process. So I don't have any doubt that will be resolved here soon.
And Mr. Wiley, John, I think we're close. We're still working on that one, but Mr. Miller was the one we just closed out. But I wanted to bring your attention to, because I don't think I pointed this out last time in the last meeting. 2509 DeQueen Auto Group versus FCA Stellantis. John and Margie both worked on that one. That was a complaint we got from Jay Dooley. He was having an issue with Stellantis, basically not, reimbursing them, paying them for some work they did. And it was an issue where they originally paid it, and then they did a chargeback, right, John? They charged it back,
right.
And we couldn't figure out why they did that. Well, John was able to get in touch with one of their, I think, corporate attorneys, and we got that resolved for the dealer. Mr. Dooley got all of his funds back, so that was a good deal. And I wish more dealers would contact us when they have issues like that. Sometimes it just takes us kind of talking to them. It's like, look, you need to explain to us why you're doing this, because I can't really understand what's going on here. And usually we can help get that resolved for the dealer. So that is an outlet. You guys talk to other dealers. The non-formal list. So 2025 non-formal complaints. You'll notice we're up to 107, I think, at this point. Okay, and we're not even out of August yet, so we're on track to probably get to 150 side. You'll also notice, as I said, the last page or page and a half of that, a lot of that is advertising Rule 3 stuff. Not all of it, but a lot of it is. Those have all been open within the past couple of weeks, I think. But John and Margie are doing the best job they can to get these closed out as quickly as possible. I do want to brag on them for one here. Where is the RV City? What number is that, Margie?
61.
61. Okay. So yes, maybe NBC versus RV City of Benton. That was closed out yesterday, day before.
Yes.
So this was an advertising issue that kind of stemmed from one of the formal investigations, Mr. Haskin, that we worked on. We discovered that Ms. McKissick had some advertising deficiencies on her website for RV City. Yeah, Joy and I talked about this. I mean, and these were like extensive issues. We're talking the whole website. So basically what I asked John and Margie to do is set up a meeting with Ms. Christine McKissick. She came to the office, was it last week or the week before?
The 5th of August.
The 5th of August. She came to our office, she came in this room, and we had her website pulled up on the big screen here so they could go through it with her, and kind of went through it, explained everything, and meeting went great. She said, we'll get this fixed right away, and she had it fixed within like 2 days. Okay, so just an example of what we can do, and people are willing to work with us. But she got it all fixed, and John sent a closure letter out to her this past week. So we're done with that, but we can resolve those issues if people are willing to work with us. And she was on that, and she had a lot of issues, and I think she also got a little bit of an education and understands now for what she should and shouldn't do. So just a specific example, but Margie and John work hard on these advertising issues. And they have a lot of conversations with dealers. I think they've had this week, I think they've had how many different dealers have we talked to?
Oh,
About 10, 12.
yeah, close to that. We've been on the phone Monday and Tuesday practically all day
Yeah.
with various dealers. We'll call one and explain why we're calling them, and they'll drop a dime on 2 or 3 others, and then we'll end up having to call it. So it's kind of a, domino effect. When you call one, you get multiple calls.
We started with 3 and ended up with 12.
So they're staying pretty busy with that, and also with the dealer visits for LSP dealers, HB dealers that need a license. You'll see some of those on here. And we don't close those complaints out on this list until A, they've applied for a license and we're, kind of to the approval stage, or B, we get them to dispense with the product and tell us, well, we're not going to get a license. Okay, well, if you're not going to do that, you can't sell it, so you need to get rid of the product. So one of 2 things has to happen for me to sign off on closure of one of those. We're not going to close it out otherwise. But they're both working really hard, and again, 107 non-formal complaints on top of all formal complaints. So they stay really busy. There's not a lot of downtime for either one. There's the day. Does anybody have any questions about any of these before we move on to the more pressing legal counsel issues? Yeah.
I had a question. So I got a call on a couple of these, and we talk about or maybe argue a little bit about what the rule violation was on the last week or so.
Which ones are we talking about?
I guess the Grand Kia, well, any of the Kias, just what the allegation is.
Okay, well, I'll start with the majority of these complaints, and I'll just make it short and sweet. The majority of the complaints are concerning the MSRP and then certain things that are being deducted from the MSRP. Okay, we all know that the rebate that's available to all consumers can be deducted from the MSRP and a final price being shown after that. Well, what some of these dealers are doing, and the majority of it we've had these complaints on, is they're tying their financing into the deduction from the MSRP. So Kia specifically, KFA, Kia Finance America, finance incentive, so many percentage for so much, APR. But when you click on your disclaimer box, it says that it's only available to well-qualified buyers, which you can't deduct those from the MSRP because that's qualified. So the rebates are fine as long as they're available to all consumers. Certain rebates, military personnel, college grad, and any other thing that they might want to give an incentive to, those are qualifiers. If it's available to all consumers, yes, they can deduct it from the MSRP. And so what happens is we get a complaint from one particular dealer against another dealer. And then when we contact that dealer, I'm doing it because so-and-so is doing it. And you contact them, and I'm doing it because so-and-so over here is doing it. So it's the domino effect. So to be fair and courteous to each dealer, every time somebody's mentioned in there, Margie and I simply go on to the next dealer. Then we give them a certain amount of time to be fair to everybody to get their sites in order, and then we'll go back and look at them at the end of the time frame and make sure they're in compliance. Everybody that we've talked to at the dealers, I'm just going to tell you all this, everybody has been very, very cooperative, very nice, very cordial. Hey, we want to make things work. Just make sure that our competition is doing the same thing. Fair enough. So that's what our goal is, to make sure that it's an education, because a lot of folks, unless you sit there like we do, Greg knows, unless you sit there and you read that stuff every day or once a week or twice a week, it kind of gets lost in the weeds, and folks are not familiar with it. And the manufacturers are putting the dealers under pressure to do certain things, and that's where this all comes from, is they'll get to advertising this and this financial incentive, and it just balloons everything. And like I said, not what we've encountered. Everybody that we've talked to is very cooperative. And, hey, we'll do whatever it takes to make sure that we're in compliance. So They really don't want to run afoul of it. Margie and I are very nice to them. We don't, we're not heavy-handed. We just try to explain things to them and educate them on what needs to be done.
I think and the only question I had, and it's actually a problem that I didn't really know existed, and maybe I'd love to hear. It's kind of your play on it. So there seems to be an issue with third-party sites that dealers are advertising on. And to include the service and handling price. So you're able to state the price of the vehicle, but the sites aren't allowing you to add that fee. You run through this that you're aware of. Okay. I haven't either. Okay.
When we check those sites, not only are we checking for the vehicle price box, okay, because that's normally what we look at, and we go in and look at it in detail. We always look at the disclaimers, which are generally at the bottom of the page.
And you're talking about on the dealership's website.
Yes, and generally at the bottom of the page, it'll say, prices do not include tax, title, license, state taxes, blah, 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 blah. Some of them say it does not include $129 service and handling fee. And according to Rule 3, the $129 service and handling fee has to be included in the advertised price. So we asked them to change that also, because that's right in Section 2 of Rule 3. That has to be in preparation charges, things like that have to be included in the sale price.
They told us, and even the ones that actually are responsible for the website, like Tyler Roush that does all the superiors, he said they can include it.
So it's
They
not
just
the
chose
dealer
not to include
website.
it.
It wasn't the dealership website that.
And third party can include it. What 3 or 4 dealerships told us that
Okay.
they just chose to not include it, but they can include it. And if the 2 of them can include it, there's no reason why the others can't.
That's what I thought about. Because I literally
Exactly,
just, this
that's
was
true.
brought to me
Yeah.
yesterday, so it's.
I think a lot of it is just lack of education on the advertising rules. I think that's just the gist of it. I don't think there's any nefariousness of any of it going on. I think it's just lack of education, lack of knowing the rules.
And I think just from a more broad standpoint, I think there's an opportunity for us to maybe do some education in concert with, because I know Brad Bailey of Motor Vehicles reached out to me about issues they've had in Oklahoma too, and their commission is wanting to do something, maybe in concert with us. So we may reach out to him and figure out, how can we work together on advertising issues, since we obviously share a pretty big border and there's lots of dealers that do business back and forth. So there may be an opportunity there for this commission to work with their commission to try to broader strategy plan to work on advertising.
Thank you, John. Mark, that helped. Yeah. Second thing is, this kind of goes to the session on the Power Sports side. Is there a point for you adjusting the application? How are you going to have to disclose their service?
Yeah, so we're going to go over that later in the packet.
Okay.
Yeah, we already did. And it'll be adjusted again after the full application. But yes, to answer your question in short, yes. Awesome. Any other questions on?
We don't do this, so we've never advertised this way, so I'm not sure about how this works, but I have seen some dealership websites where they offer a price, and in the disclaimer with an asterisk, they say you must finance the car with us. That's kind of a gray area. I mean, and they're not talking about necessarily financing where the rebate is based on the financing. They're talking about their dealer discount is such that I'm not going to give you that much dealer discount if you don't finance with it.
I'd have to look at it, but again, our rule's pretty clear. The advertised price is the price that's available to
That's the way I
everyone.
understood it.
Yeah.
And the caveat of you must finance with us is not kosher. It's not.
when Marge and I call the dealers, we have a situation like that, like it, includes incentives to finance through NMAC or Ford Motor Credit or anything like that. I always pose the question is, okay, if I come to the dealership and I bring you a check from my bank, am I gonna get that truck or that car for that advertised price? And the answer is usually no. The only way you're gonna get that price is if you advertise.
Finance it. They're relying on the
Yes.
finance income to substitute for their loss of gross on front. But it's.
Yes.
That's what I
Because it's
thought.
the full cash price. If you walk in there with a check from your bank, cash money, that's what you should be able to get that vehicle for.
That's the way I've always understood it.
Yes, and that's correct. And that right there, what you just kind of laid out is a lot of what we got margin to.
Yeah.
Website.
And I'm talking about, though, I've seen it such that you didn't have to finance it with a certain, the rebate wasn't tied to a finance, like a captive finance company.
But
It was
it's
a dealer
the
discount
dealers.
that was
Yeah,
tied
they-
to, you gotta finance it with one of our
Lenders, yeah.
lenders. In order to get
That's
this price.
happened to us on occasion when we were presented with, the website price. And then when we went to the dealership, there was a website price. That was only if you finance through, I think it was NMAC. Then if you finance through one of our other lenders, we can get it at this price. If you bring your own check, this is the price you pay. So it really presented itself as being unfair to the consumer because it's confusing. Nobody knows what to do.
What is the actual price?
That's always been the issue. Is that really the actual price? Out the door.
All good questions. Anything else?
Things to think about, having solutions was, but I think we're all on top of what we need to do. Let everybody know about it. All right, legal counsel report, Aaron, you and Daniel are on.
I want to turn this over to Aaron, especially for the first update, because it's one that you guys, Joy's already, she already approved of the case, but we still need to, I think, vote on that, just say that you guys are. So,
Ginger Chevrolet versus General Motors, this was set for a hearing on July 23rd, roughly a week or so before the hearing. We heard from counsel. They said that the matter appears to be resolved. They were expecting a sale of the dealership closing in early October. And so what they wanted to do was continue the July 23rd meeting, the July 23rd hearing. And they wanted it reset sometime in October, just to make sure that the sale does actually go through. I think that Daniel said that the continuance has already been granted, but doesn't need to be voted on at this point. And then the new hearing date needs to be reset, just in case this sale does not go through.
and I think we kind of discussed this, you and I, Joy, that we already have a hearing in October, because we had that September 30th through October 3rd hearing date that's set for Bradford Marine versus BRP. So, up to you guys when we get to that point, but I would suggest maybe saying, well, okay, for something, because I don't know if you want to have two hearings in the second one. That's up to you. Not that, we don't think we're going to have a hearing, but just. Anybody have any questions on it before because we need to.
So this is a just in case here.
We have to set a date for them, they need a benchmark.
Okay.
Because again, this is all.
Our regular meeting in October would be, the 15th or so.
I can tell you, hold on. Regular meeting would be on the 15th, exactly. Would be a regular meeting date. in October. For the Wednesday.
I would move that we set it for the regular meeting day.
That's the motion.
Top wood.
Second. Oh, wait. Back it in.
Do we need to add to the motion? motion. For continuance.
Yes. We do need to do.
I move that we approve the continuance of the hearing to the October 15th regular commission meeting day. So,
Michael Johnson, second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the continuance of the, hearing that was supposed to be October or July. And move it to October 15th at our regular schedule. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, same sign.
We'll communicate that to council for both sides. I'm sure they will be fine with that. Thank you guys, and next.
Next, we have commission for Icon Hot Springs. This was also scheduled for a hearing, scheduled for June 18th. On June 3rd, Mr. Wallach signed a consent agreement, was approved by commission at the next meeting. In that consent agreement, Icon was required to pay $1,000 within 15 days of the approval. It was to immediately complete the application and obtain the appropriate licenses. And then he was to appear at the June 18th meeting of the commission to answer any questions, which he did do. At that time, I believe he already paid the $1,000.
He paid it after that. So, yeah, the one that I included here, there's a disbursement report that shows his payment. It was actually done on July 3rd, so he paid on July 3rd. He paid the full $1,000 amount, so he has paid it to satisfy.
And let you know the status of his application.
He's after the commission voted, so he does have a license.
So he's complied with all terms.
So far, yes. We will obviously continue to make sure that he does.
I was gonna tell you, I drove by there the other day, cause I went to Hot Springs, and all he has on his lot is icons.
So far, so good. We will continue on that, but he did pay the full penalty amount that you asked him to pay for the terms of the consent agreement.
I think he understands.
I hope so.
Yeah. We'll keep our fingers crossed.
Okay, there's no other questions on that. We'll move on to the last, which is Bradford Marine versus PRP. If they want to set for a hearing, request a 4-day hearing. September 29th.
September 30th through October 3rd is what they requested that the commission approved for them. We'll take the full 4 days. We do have this room reserved for all 4 days, so we have to.
At this point, we haven't heard from either side as far as they expect to go the full 4 days. We still need a hearing, so we're going to something immediate. We're still trying to get a hearing officer for this, for the 4-day hearing. None of the hearing officers that we deal with, we have 5 or 6 in my office. None of them can take off work for 4 days. They all have other jobs to stay. And so that could be an issue, but we'll work on that as we get closer. We've tried to get different hearing officers, maybe one that can do 2 days and one that can do 1. So far, we haven't gotten any luck with that request either. So the hearing goes on the 30th. Hearing officer on that day. But I'm still
Start
working.
writing all that down for me.
I'm still working to get the hearing officer here. It's actually
We do have a board. Miranda has a.
Good.
Right now, we're ready to go, it sounds like, with everybody, with the hearing officer, and we're just waiting on council from both sides to let us know what their status is.
just point of curiosity. Will this go from like 9 a.m. to 3 p.m.? What's the parameters on the time frames for each day? Say it does go multiple days.
The plan is to start at 9:30 every day, and we'll see. I mean, I think that just kind of depends on the council probably in terms of.
Kind of depends on the hearing officer and what they will allow, so if the board can only meet until, say, 2:30, then you could close the hearing down at that point, so we're gonna come back tomorrow.
Who would thought we could finish up by 5 o'clock, we're back to stay and get done in one day.
Yeah, they kind of need to know, so I think closer to time, we, Ms. Ray, we will let you all know, is that a fair
Whether
thing?
we give me a reservation.
Yeah, sure. Well, we've
Oh,
got,
yeah,
we've got the-
Michael, just bring them on down here, we'll try them out.
We've got the room, we've got the room reserved for the whole day, for all 4 days. So, I mean, nobody's gonna kick us out of the room. We're here for as long as we need.
We're just gonna keep our fingers crossed on all this.
I mean,
You'll look like 4 days.
I don't know how, but.
Y'all-
that's what they asked for, and I don't think they're. But we'll let you know as we get closer, like in terms of if they've made any requests on turning it down, or if they, any other information. So far, in the last, month, we haven't really had any further
Wow.
updates from either side, which, could mean that they're working on something. I don't know. We'll see. But they haven't really sent us any updates. So right now we're operating on, we're going forward with the hearing. They have to give us an indication otherwise.
That's everything on the legal counsel.
Next item is the voluntary license agreement surrender list.
We just have one this time, for Randall
Randall
Tyler.
Tyler.
This is the Boonville,
Okay, right.
dealer that Bill White bought out, so
Right.
they have surrendered the license. We're asking you to approve that.
Sure. We need a motion now, please.
Michael Johnson, motion to approve.
Been moved and seconded to approve H number 26-001, Randall Tyler 40. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Voluntary license surrender. Motion carries. Yep, White River ATV investigating summary and review of the investigation report. We talked about this a little bit earlier.
Yes.
So what page?
There's a
Under
rest.
action.
John, under action items,
All right.
John's investigation report is in there.
All right.
I asked him to include it in the packet.
All right.
I'll give you a brief overview, and
I see it.
I'll let John give you kind of a summary of what's going on here. This is purely from him, mostly John. But you'll recall that the commission has already addressed this issue previously with Mr. Holyfield. White River ATVs in Batesville and Scott's Turf. I think Scott's told me he drives by this place every day when he goes to the dealership. So originally, if you'll recall, Mr. Holyfield was set up in a furniture store, which is not permissible under the Rule 4 facility requirements, which that's in the back for reference if you need it. You can't share it with a business that's unrelated to motor vehicles. You can share a location. So the commission, after hearing this, you guys asked him to move and set up a different location for his dealership, which he did. And John went and inspected it, and it's on the other side of town, right, John? It's
Yes.
on, I think what road is that, Scott?
White
Drive. White Drive. So he did get another lease location. John inspected it, it was fine. And so we approved for him to do that, and we thought that that issue had been settled. And that's where I will let John take over.
Well, he did. He moved over to 150 White Drive, which is over there behind Arnold Cycle there in Batesville. Gave him plenty of time. He moved in, went over there and inspected. We approved his license and everything. That was probably around the first or second week of December of last year. Then it was either January or February, it was brought to our attention that he was still selling his products out of his furniture store. So as a courtesy to him, I called him on the phone and did not accuse him of anything. I just simply said that I had gotten some information that he was selling from that location. If that was indeed true, it needs to stop and stop immediately. That was the end of that. Then, what was it, the 7th of August, I went down there to go to Tractor Supply Company and to go to Everett Kia and have to drive right past it to go out there. And lo and behold, he's got scooters and ATVs displayed for sale. And before that, I had gone by the new location and there was nothing but looked like a bunch of used cars out there. And so that's when I went over to the furniture store. Sure enough, he had these ATVs and scooters. So I went inside, had a scooter inside. And so I confronted him about it while I was there and told him he needed to desist immediately, that he was only authorized to sell for 150 White Drive, that he needed to get him off the lot, put him in the back of the store, get rid of him, whatever he did with him, but he was not authorized to sell there. And he had applied for his license originally, which was February, for his renewal. And Alexis has called him multiple times and asked him to renew his license, which he still has not. When I was there, I asked him to get on the ELP that day, finish his application or renew his application or whatever he needed to do to get his license up and running. Yeah. So I went back last Thursday. He had one scooter out in front of his new location and none at the furniture store. So I'll just leave it at that. And as far as I know, he has not applied for his renewal.
I'm gonna let Alexis address that because he did originally apply, but
They submitted a renewal, the renewal still listed the former address, and then their bond and insurance still also listed that former address that the furniture store is located at. It was rejected, sent it back to them, let them know that all of that needed to be updated. We spoke to the young lady who was working in his office at the time and to him, and we've reached out every couple of weeks since February, and we have not gotten a resubmission. Later in the packet, Daniel's going to go over the changes that we made with ELP, but due to those changes, we needed him to have had that completed before we could make those, and we gave him a timeline. He did not adhere to the timeline, and so his submission was kicked out, and he's no longer able to resubmit using that already paid amount, which means he has to go in and completely start over his renewal application. He cannot continue from where he left off formerly. And I have spoken to him on the phone twice since then. Maybe 2 days before John went, I spoke to him. I asked him to have it done by the next day, and he did not have it done. We went ahead and had the ELP stuff completed, and the date, John went down to visit him and noticed that he was not adhering to the other rules.
and also I think he hasn't updated his dealer agreement either, it's been the
Yes.
address. So
Nothing has been updated.
none of his required documents are up to date on his application. So to summarize, he hasn't done what he's supposed to do to renew his license 6 months later, and we just went ahead, we had to make that updates to the system. He can just apply again, we used to do it, but, so he hasn't done that, and John has confirmed that he was moving ATVs and scooters to the old location. It's not supposed to be, you're not supposed to be there, you're supposed to have all those at the new location. So we've got multiple issues with him at this point, and correct me if I'm wrong, Alexis, but I think he's the only dealer in the state of Arkansas that has not renewed his license for 2025. So I bring this to you for you to decide what you want to do with him. Aaron and I.
We're tired of him. Oh, I didn't say that.
Aaron and I can work on whatever, you think is appropriate, a letter, or, or we can notice him for a hearing. I mean, I leave it up to the commission to decide how you want to handle this. But again, we've already worked with him once to get him in compliance, and now he's going back on that, and he's not in compliance with the license either, so,
So he's done the ELP before,
yes.
so it isn't like he doesn't know what to do.
Yeah,
They
he knows.
used it to
Okay.
review before we realized the issues with this location.
Okay,
Once we realized those issues, we had him go in and, I believe they were going to, they applied two ways. So they applied and then the position had to be denied if they did it incorrectly. And then they went in and properly applied,
That was last year.
and then when renewals came, they didn't renew properly, and so that information was.
But they don't have, even if they don't.
But they
well,
should
that's what I
have-
mean, I didn't
That's-
know the age of it.
Yes, he
Maybe
knows how
it's
to use
hard,
ELP.
but I thought maybe he didn't know how to do
He
it.
just let it sit there.
So I have a question. What's the difference in what's going on here and what went on with the man in Hot Springs?
Or something. To answer your question, I mean, it's, other than this guy has already had a license.
Yeah.
Right.
So, but at this point, the situation is such that there's very little difference in.
It's very simple.
He is also aware that failure to comply could result in penalties.
I think that's what it would be, has to come, if he doesn't come. Then what?
Everything involved, so.
There's really two ways that you can handle this. You could consent agreement. And that's what happened in the wall back in Hot Springs. We sent a consent agreement required, he agreed to it, he didn't want to go through a hearing. The other option is to set it for a hearing in front of the board. At that, there would be, we wouldn't consider any sort of agreement with them, we would just leave those with the board's decisions on what sanctions were appropriate.
And if you'll recall, in the consent agreement, in fact, you can reference it again, but if you'll recall, in that consent agreement, yeah, we had the $1,000 penalty that he was required to pay, but we also had stipulations in there. You will get your license, you know, the proper license application in, get that taken care of, and you will, you know, the Commission Act, and you will no longer sell from this, but no longer sell from this other location. Those sorts of things can be added in as terms of the agreement. Again, a consent agreement is a good option, and usually we can get that worked out, but you can always say, well, I'm not going to sign it, and then we'll have to notice it for a hearing, because that won't be. Again, that's kind of the two options.
Or we could maybe sign it if you don't sign it.
Yeah, we could do that.
I would say that, because, sorry, I said that part, I'd strike that from minutes. But anyway,
You need a motion for that?
you,
I'll make a motion that we celebrate.
Approaching the consent agreement.
And with Jimmy,
And with the consent agreement also include if he doesn't sign it, a hearing date.
That wouldn't be included in the consent agreement, that would be the next step. The consent agreement would be used.
yeah,
to avoid
just
the
say
hearing.
this would be the next step.
And if he doesn't agree to the consent agreement and submit it to the commission, then that next step would be the full hearing.
There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded to, in the consent agreement. Thank you, Mr. Holyfield. I was looking for that. I don't know, I should know it by heart. White River ATV. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
I guess his other option is to quit selling.
Yep, sure. That's always an option.
We determine that
Usually the committee will, and then if he agrees to it, we will bring that to the board, and the board has the ultimate
You guys always have to approve of the fine.
Yeah.
It's up to you, if you want to accept it or not.
So if you thought the sanctions were too light, the commission thought the sanctions were too light, the commission would vote to reject the consent agreement and we would schedule for a hearing.
Joy and I here. working on it together.
Do any of the vehicles that he sells require a license plate?
Oh, a license plate? Not that I'm aware of. He's just selling ATVs and scooters.
And go-karts too, that they're not, they require.
With this new act, allow him to license his furniture store and list his other locations, service, so. Not the way I read it.
It's solely a furniture.
You gotta be able to make the argument that it's somehow related to other vehicles. Gotcha.
You have a service department. Either place. John does, yeah, John.
It's pretty cool shop.
It's an old car.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't think Gillies is there.
No, I think they're.
They're out on, with that limestone road out there.
His new location is perfectly adequate. He just needs to be selling there.
We're gonna approve the, automotive technological education grant program, fiscal year 2020. The distribution of the grant funds are in your packet.
Yes, ma'am. So we have the full list here of the 11 applications that were approved by you to disperse out the $250,000 total amount. You have the breakdown here again. Since last meeting, we had dispersed all of those warrants out to all 11 institutions. They all received them, and as you'll see on the final column over there, they all have deposited funds. So all of the funds have been dispersed and received, and they all have use of them now. The first accounting report for the grant program is due September 14th, I think, Alexis. So that's when the first accounting report is due, and we will, the next meeting after that, we will ask you to obviously review and approve these accounting reports for each program. And the second one is due, I think, January, second Sunday of January. So you'll see, all of the money that they have allocated and expended on, at least at that point in September. At the next meeting, we should those accounting. But all funds have been allotted and received and deposited, so everyone has all the funds you guys allocated to them. Use those to purchase all the equipment and supplies they ask for. So we'll see how long it takes all to get all of that extended out. I imagine a lot of them are already well on their way.
Yeah.
So that's where that stands, just to give you an update. And again, next time you should have those account reports for you to review. So, question, Jim?
Well, I was just looking at ASU and BB social campus and then ASU Three Rivers Center. I got those two. They're connected.
They're just part of the ASU university system, but they're separate institutions.
I saw they got a big number, $60,000.
Yeah, both of those, this is the first time either one of them have applied live, so they haven't been funded in, I think one of them has never been funded, but they haven't been funded.
Where's Three Rivers?
Three Rivers is Malvern, right, Marty?
Correct.
Malvern. Yeah, and the ASUBB is the ASUBB affiliated Searcy campus, so there's two days.
I know that if that campus, there's been a lot of repair school for a long time. Like diesel also.
But yeah, anytime you, yes, sir.
Can I add on the issue? They have, I'm trying to remember the gentleman's name, but he's running their program. And did they talk about their affiliation with Toyota?
He didn't mention that.
Okay,
I talked to him a
so
couple times.
they've actually partnered with Toyota to serve as a training facility for Toyota technicians. They're working with General Motors to try to get, and Ford to try to get some sort of approval. This is for mechanical or for, yeah, one for the service tech side. They're really doing a good job at that program. They worked with Parker Lexus to get Toyota to approve. Parker Lexus has a guy named Richard Green, who was a service tech, and he's kind of worked his way up. He actually worked for Sewell Cadillac in Texas years ago, and he's worked his way up in a Parker organization. Now he's director of operations, but he's got a real service technician's heart. And he worked with this school to get Toyota to approve, to get them approved as a Toyota technician training center. And really are trying to match it with other OEMs. We're also currently working with Monticello, not Monticello, Norfolk, try to get them connected with shipments.
Yeah, I talked to the gentleman there. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. Do you remember his name? Rick?
Are you talking about ASUB?
Yeah, HUBB. Because I want to say it's,
I can't think of it. It's
anyway, he was very excited to be cool.
yeah, they're in
Yeah. A great use of our resources.
what we want.
Any other questions?
Any other on that one?
Michael B. We're getting like
No, it was a different guy. Yeah,
On to the D section of here, enterprise license. Or update, application update.
yes,
And
ma'am.
an act is listed here.
That it was required because of Act 233, and this is what I was mentioning earlier to Greg, but this is what he was asking about. So I've included my email in here. This is what I sent to the IT department to update the system. Granted, you know, we're a little limited on what we can update on the application until we get through the entire appeal process. We might have to do some further modifications, but this is language. This is kind of what we came up with myself and our attorney here, to go ahead and modify the existing new franchise cycle auto applications to kind of adhere to and meet the requirements of Act 233. I included a copy of that for you guys to reference again. But essentially, it adds some required questions and a required document to those applications. So that essentially, if you're going to sell ATVs and low-speed vehicles at that location, you have to affirmatively answer yes or no. And then also, are you going to be providing on-site repair warranty services at that location, yes or no? If you answer no, then you have no choice. You cannot submit the application. You are required to upload that service provider, warranty service provider list within 40 miles as per the statute. So there's no way for them to submit an application under this new code section of the act without providing that list to us. So we know, okay, if you're going to do this, who are your service providers? Required to upload that list with their name, address, phone number, email address. You can contact those people to verify if you need to. So that is going to be a requirement for Lowe's, Tractor Supply, anybody that submits that kind of application.
But we don't license those service providers.
We do not. They just are required to notify us if
They can be an independent.
who they are. So, and again, this is what we came up with, but obviously in the rules process, we can modify this somewhat depending on what you guys include in Rule 2. There'll be some slight modifications that need to happen later. Places, you'll see places in the office. I wanted her to step in and just kind of briefly talk to the commissioners while we're talking about this, about the rule process and how it works here at ADLO now. So they are kind of aware. She said she would be happy to step in for that. He's our on-site attorney that works on rules and cases and stuff for us here. But it's kind of a long process now. I think it's a lot longer than Greg was previously.
I used to do it that morning, you can affect that afternoon. So,
Oh, there are new things with these, those fees and all the things, so.
Yeah. And I had an asterisk by that for you guys to look at, for you to just say, whatever you say. Okay. But those changes have already been implemented. So anybody that applies under the auspice of the new section of the act, they're gonna have to do this on application. So, okay. You are one of those that is an ATV, LSV dealer only, you're wanting to have off-site service providers. So it is gonna create kind of a class of dealer in our system. And that's all. Anybody have any questions about that at all?
spot check those people.
Can you spot check, like, what are we talking about? The service providers?
If they say no,
Like you say, if they said this list of these 3 people are the people that are going to be servicing our customers, are we actually going to take any action to verify that these people exist and are actually know that they're going to be taking care of those customers?
Yes.
Or whoever.
I can say yes, we will, John and Margie will check them to see. But I think,
I would think in a real world application, we'll probably need to get a complaint too.
right. We will definitely do that. I think there's some room in the rulemaking process that will make that easier for us if we can. Because Greg can elaborate on this if he wants to, and Aaron as well. But the way I read the statute that they have written, there's kind of an implied agreement between the store and the service provider. So I think we might be able to say in some way that you can get that agreement with this service provider, which would kind of make it a little easier on us to do some oversight if there's an actual agreement in place. Again, we're not going to license these people, but we do have to know who they are. So yes, we will be checking on them to make sure that they're actually doing what the business says they're supposed to be doing. And then that will fall back on the business because we don't have any.
E on page 2 under the law, that's provide information concerning a service provider. That's probably the most important thing. So I think that's going to give the commission this flexibility to add particular rules that will allow a little more expectation of the service provider and what exactly you're able to, or they're expected to provide a customer. Because that's really provide information. You have a lot of flexibility on the information.
I think we have some latitude.
Yeah. And so going back to what you're asking for, we're licensing. We're asking them to update and provide a provider list. Could it eventually also get to the point where we ask them to provide a copy of the service provider and the store?
I hope so. Again, I think we would have to have a little more. I think we would have to have that in the rule. Maybe not. Yes, I think that's kind of what Greg's alluding to. That's what I'm alluding to. I think we can do that, but I think it needs to be in the before we put it in the actual application. Open us up to something. So.
And I would agree that the language in it is intentionally vague. That's why the commission did to put it in the
Lacey's still in exec team meeting. So what I was gonna share with you guys is we're obviously gonna start the rule process. And the way that starts at this point is, I mean, we kind of come up with something here, but it has to be approved at the governor's office, the language and everything, and by the secretary. When it comes back, you guys have to approve it. And then we have what's called the 30-day public comment period after that. So there's a whole long process, and then of course after that, it has to go to legislature, to their body over there, that committee. So it's a very long, drawn out process. But we're going to get started on that. What I was going to say, and Aaron, correct me if I'm wrong, there's nothing stopping the commissioners individually, right, from offering suggestions to on board members. We just can't have the discussions about it. How it works. Like if they wanted to offer.
As far as what's going to be in the rule, it would have to be a public meeting.
Okay.
So you wouldn't be able to email and ask the
Right.
commissioners how do you
That's
feel
what I
about
wanted to
this.
clarify.
Yeah, you would have to have it in something like this where it's recorded.
Okay.
On the matter here, there's recalls on everything that you get right now that's has mobility. I foresee problems with that. John Doe buys something that's got a recall on it. Where I think a lot of issues with that for the public.
Well, another thing to keep in mind too, when we go into this process, because of new requirements, executive level, we're not allowed to implement a brand new rule without rescinding two rules, right? So, but we can add on to the existing rule without having to rescind rules. So that's what we're going to have to do, and I think it would probably be most appropriate to add on to the rule. That's the way I see it. So we can't just add a new rule without rescinding it. So we'll have to figure that out too. I think probably the most appropriate place to have a section. But yes, we will certainly going to initiate the process. This went into effect on August 5th, so it's just become effective in the last few weeks. I can tell you, we haven't gotten, at least not yet at this point, any new applications under this new section in terms of people who permanently say we're going to use a third party provider. We haven't gotten it yet for that, but I'm sure we will. So Lowe's, especially Lowe's, is indicated to us they're in the process. They just are waiting on corporate approval for how many stores they have. I think we just need what we institute is consistent with this motion. Approval of that.
And a motion to approve the new franchise dealer license application that pertains to Act 223, correct? 233, sorry, I didn't read that.
I make a motion that we accept the language for the update to the ERP application for Act 233.
233.
Second.
Moving and seconded to approve the franchise dealer license application update in its language of Act 233. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. E, North Arkansas College request for adjustment to the allocation of grant funds for equipment purchases.
all had Miss Mel Bonds, here. She's the Dean of Grants and Special Projects up there in North Arch in Harris. She sent this to us very late last week, so she got it in just under the wire. We did it included in the packet on the agenda. And you have the email and the invoice, the updated quote that she has there with those figures for the refrigerator recovery system. I think she does a pretty good job of explaining what she's wanting to do here, but I did call her just to verify that I was understanding everything. She's not seeking an adjustment to their, the amount they're rewarded. It's purely just an adjustment of the allocation, this system as opposed to the other system. Moving some stuff around to better cover that. She just wanted to get approval for that before she just did it. Because obviously she's saying this refrigerator recovery system that she has included here is actually a little less expensive than the previous ones. And they had a little issue with the sales tax on other frame measurement systems. So they're just,
You feel good with that? After talking with her, you feel good?
yeah. Yeah, and again, this is all going to be covered in their account report. I mean, they're going to have to show all this.
But motion. I like the motion to approve. I'll second it. Like I said,
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the North Arkansas Electric Waste Replacement allocation to the grant. For refreshment equipment. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Greg, do you have anything that you would like to come forward? Just want to give you that opportunity. I understand. So we will make September 17th.
So that's what I wanted to discuss at the end.
All right.
You and I kind of already talked about it, so
All right.
I'm more than happy to, as always, but obviously we also have the hearing scheduled for September 30th, potentially through October 3rd. That's a big time commitment for everybody already, so, Chair and Commissioners, what do you guys want to do? Our regular scheduled meeting for that month would be 17th, but obviously we can also, the way we've done it in the past, we can also dispense with just regular approval minutes and financial stuff at the very start of any meeting / hearing we have too. So it's really up to you guys how you want to handle that.
roll it into one.
Have the handle regular business on September 30th. It won't take us very long to do that. Just go into
Good.
You like to do that?
Okay.
Yeah.
I moved it with roll regular meeting. September. Moved it to the start of the period, September 3rd. Second. Scott Wood.
It's been moved and seconded that we roll the regular meeting that would be September 17th into their hearing that will be on September.
Starts on September 30th.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
So, yeah, in that vein, just mark the calendar for September 30th. Potentially through October 3rd. Again, Aaron and I really don't think it'll be that long, but I can't promise you anything. I thought this issue was going to get resolved, honestly, and it didn't. So here we are. We'll see how long it takes. It takes as long as it takes. They both sides will have the opportunity to present their full arguments. So.
We've been there, done that, and
Giving on the further to the end. I think.
you'll come on this end.
I
want you to just stare and go right.
I'll be flying out. Right.
It moved it up.
You just overload them 30. Hopefully we can get it wrapped up. And then send them in something.
Motion for adjournment.
Move to adjourn. Scott moved. Wayne Johnson, second.
Good meeting, everybody, thank you.
Did everybody get their mileage turned into?
Yes. Did everybody get time?
And Michael got us his checks.
Only because Miss Margie called me this morning.
At 7:30.
7:30 a.m. It was the lone straggler that we couldn't do direct deposit on these miles.
Oh, I was thinking, what are you talking
Yeah.
about? Got it.
I get up about 6.
Yeah, she said, I think I'll just text him, and I thought in my head, I go, "You probably should call," and then 3 minutes later, she goes, "No, I'm just gonna call him."
And I was like, is it too early to call you this morning?
I'm very thankful.
You're very welcome.